If I had turned around the moment I heard my name echo through the trees, I might have made it out. But I didn't. I froze. And that was enough. The forest was quiet in that unnatural wail, like the silence that falls in a room just before something bad happens. The only sound was the crunch of my boots against brittle leaves, and even that seemed too loud. Ethan was barely above a whisper. But it came from in front of me, and it was my voice. I stopped breathing. The sun had already dipped behind the treetops, bleeding the last of its light into the darkening canopy. I hadn't seen another human being in 4 hours. No reception, no trail markers. Just me, the shadows, and that voice. Ethan had said again. Clearer this time, closer. I tried to laugh it off. Echo, I told myself. Trick of the mind. But then it spoke again. Don't leave me out here. Same pitch, same rhythm, word for word. Something I had said on a phone call 2 days ago. I turned around slowly, nothing. I spun back. Still nothing. It's twisted and too still. Watching, I didn't run. It's not yet. But I walked fast. My heart thundered like a drumbeat in my chest, each beat syncing with the pounding of boots. Behind me, weight-boots. I wasn't moving anymore. But the footsteps didn't stop. They weren't echoes. I knew that the second I held my breath and the footsteps kept going. Crunch, crunch, exactly like mine. Same pace, same rhythm, but now, just slightly off. Like someone trying to mimic how I walked, but getting. It runged one heartbeat behind. I spun again. The woods stared back, silent and still. But I could feel it now, the presence not watching me, mimicking me. I stepped back, slow, careful move. Nothing. Then I took another. Behind me, the same footfall. Echoed back a second later. I stopped, and that sound stopped too. That's when I whispered, hello? Just to hear something, anything human, and then it answered, hello, it whispered back. But it wasn't my voice anymore. It was my mother's. She died 3 years ago. I froze so hard my muscles locked up, my throat clenched. Stung, Ethan, she said again, now soft and sweet and trembling. I'm lost. Help me. My body wanted to run. My brain wanted to scream, but my heart, my stupid heart, ached with something it hadn't felt in years. Hope I stumbled. Forward, drawn by that voice like a dog to a whistle. But then, another voice joined in. It's time from the left. You left me, Ethan? That was Brian, my childhood best friend. Dead in a car crash last winter. His voice too real, too recent. I turned my flashlight toward the trees. Nothing only. Shifting branches, like something just slipped behind them. I wasn't alone. But whatever was out here, it didn't want to find me. It wanted to become me. I kept walking, but the ground had changed. It was softer now, spongy, like I wasn't stepping on leaves anymore, but something rotting underneath. I tried to retrace my steps, find the old trail, but nothing looked the same. The trees weren't. Just tall now, they were wrong. Bent in ways trees don't bend. Too many branches, not enough bark, and some of them were bleeding sap that looked too red. That's when I saw it. A piece of cloth, my jacket sleeve, the same tear I had 3 days ago on a different hike, caught on a fence. But I'd left that jacket at home. It was hanging from a branch like a warning, and underneath it, in the soil. My phone cracked dead, muddy, but I had it in my backpack right now. I pulled it out, still there, still on, still full battery. 2 phones. One, me. Then the voice came again. Close. Too close, Ethan. Remember the lake? It was my dad's voice. Drowned when I was 11. No one came for me, Ethan. I waited for you. My knees buckled. I hadn't told anyone about the lake. About the dreams. About how I still woke up gasping for air. How the water still whispered to me sometimes when I showered too long. Whatever this thing was, didn't just copy my voice. It had my memories. I don't remember walking toward it. I just looked up, and there it was. A cabin. Old, weather-beaten, half sunken into the earth like the forest was trying to swallow it whole. Its windows were dark. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Yet, a dim yellow light flickered inside. There shouldn't have been a cabin here. I hadn't seen anything marked on my map. No mention of a shelter, no ranger post. But the forest wanted me to find it. I felt that as I stepped closer, the air grew colder, not just chilly spox cold, like stepping into a freezer sealed shut for decades. The wood creaked beneath me. As I opened the door inside, it smelled of rot and rain and something, metallic blood. But there was something worse. Pinned to the walls, photographs, dozens, maybe hundreds, of me. Sleeping, hiking, laughing, wearing clothes I hadn't worn yet. Standing in places I'd never been, but always me, caught from behind. Trees, behind glass, behind something. My breath fogged the air. On a table in the center, there was a journal. Faded, leather-bound, cracked at the spine. I opened it. Page 1, day 1. The voice called me by name. Page 2, day 2. It started copying how I walk, how I breathe, how I think. Page 3, day 3. I saw myself today, staring at me from the tree line. On page 4 in handwriting exactly like mine, day 4, it doesn't want to kill me, it wants to replace me. Behind me, the floor creaked, slow, deliberate, human. I turned and saw myself standing in the doorway. It didn't blink, didn't breathe, it just stood there, watching me with my face. Same scars on the left cheek, same tired eyes, same scratch on the wrist I'd gotten just yesterday. But the expression wasn't mine. There was something hollow behind its stare. Like it had eyes, but didn't know what they were for. A perfect shell, no soul inside. Who are you? I whispered. It tilted its head just like I did when confused. It mirrored me perfectly. Then, in my exact voice, it answered. I'm you, Ethan. I've always been you. I backed away, bumping into the table. The photos fluttered. The journal fell open to a new page that hadn't been there before. Day 5. If you see it, it's already inside. I ran out of the cabin. Into the trees. Through roots and branches that seemed to move just enough to trip me. But the worst part, I kept hearing myself behind me. My voice, my laugh, my screams. It wasn't chasing, it was mocking. You always run, Ethan. You're weak. We're meant to be left behind. I tripped on a root, crashed hard to the forest floor. Blood filled my mouth, my head spun, and then die. Silence again, until a gentle voice whispered near my ear, "Let me in." I don't remember blacking out, but when I opened my eyes, it was night. The forest was ink black. No moon, no stars. Even the insects were gone. Only the sound of wind, except it didn't feel like wind. My flashlight was gone. My bag gone. The only thing left was the journal, still clutched in my hand. A new line had appeared. Day 6. It gets inside when you doubt who you are. I tried to stand, but my legs shook beneath me. I felt weak. Not just tired, hollow. I called out, "Is anyone there?" And all around me, from every direction, the same voice answered, "Is anyone there?" The mimic. But this time, it wasn't just copying me, it was inside my head. Every time I thought of a memory, it echoed it back in distorted whispers. Mom's. A voice when she used to tuck me in. "Good night, baby." Then, "Good night, baby," but twisted, crooked, wrong. Dad's laughter from that one happy camping trip. Hear that? That's nature, son. Then, that's nature, son. But filled with something sharp, like it hated the words. Every part of me, every sacred memory, was being rewritten, and then it said something I hadn't spoken, something I'd only thought a dark memory, one I'd buried for years, something no one else ever knew. But the mimic said it word for word. I clutched my head. "Get out." But the voice didn't leave. It laughed. "There's no out, Ethan. You never left the forest." I screamed until my voice cracked, and from the shadows, 10 voices screamed back. All mine. I walked for what felt like hours, but the trees never changed. Each trunk looked like the last. Each rock, each root, each shadow, as if the forest was looping itself. Or maybe I was the one looping. That's when I heard water. A stream. I pushed through the brush, thorns tearing my arms, and stumbled onto a narrow creek glowing silver under a false moon I hadn't seen before. I fell to my knees, drank, washed the blood off my hands. Then I saw it, not my reflection, another version of me kneeling across the water, same cuts, same dirt, same eyes. I froze. He didn't. He smiled. And when he did, I knew that wasn't me. It was something wearing me. He opened his mouth and said my name. Not like a greeting, not like a whisper. He spoke it like a curse. Ethan, I staggered back, nearly falling into the water. Why are you running? It asked, still smiling. We're the same. Don't you remember? My voice, but layered like 5 different Ethans speaking at once, slightly off sync. Wrong. Then it stood, and I noticed something I hadn't before. Its body was cracked, as if the skin was just a shell, and something darker writhed beneath it. It stepped into the stream. The water didn't ripple. It moved like a glitch in reality. I ran. Branches whipped my face. Roots tried to grab my ankles. But it followed no sound, no breath, no struggle, just presence. In the distance, I saw a flicker of campfire. Real. I didn't care. I sprinted toward it, lungs burning, until I burst into a small clearing and stopped. 6 people sat around the fire. All of them were me, different versions. One crying, one laughing, one covered in blood. One curled into a ball. One staring directly at me. The last one stood up. Finally, he said, "You made it." The fire crackled like it was alive, whispering secrets in the smoke. The 6 versions of me didn't blink, didn't move, except the one who stood. He stepped closer and I finally saw it. His eyes were completely black. Not like someone in shadow, but as if his pupils had been replaced with holes, deep, endless holes. He looked me up and down like I was a stranger, then said in a calm, cold voice, "You're the last one." The others began to rise now in perfect sync. Same slow, jerky motion, like puppets. One of them, blood-covered and shaking, whispered, "He doesn't let you leave until you forget who you were." Another, eyes sunken and wild, hissed, "I tried to hold on, but he took my memories first." My breath caught. "What are you talking about? Who is he?" The black-eyed version stepped closer. "You've already met him. He wears you better than you ever did." I turned to run, but they were surrounding me now. 6 versions of me. 6 twisted futures I could have lived. I shoved past one, the crying one, and he grabbed my arm. His fingers were like ice. His skin peeled where he touched me. "You remember? The lake," he sobbed. "You left me there. I drowned." "No," I said I didn't, but the voice in my head whispered, "Yes, you did." Because somewhere deep inside me, a part of me believed it. And that's all it needed. Suddenly, the world shifted. The clearing dissolved into fog. The fire vanished and I was back at the lake. 11 years old, my father was shouting. I was frozen. He slipped, went under, didn't come back up. My throat burned. My chest ached. "No," I muttered. "This isn't real. This isn't real." But a figure emerged from the lake, wet, broken, and wearing my face. "This is where it started, Ethan," it said. "This is where I got in." The figure from the lake stepped closer. Its skin hung like wet fabric peeling from the edges, revealing something black and pulsing beneath. Its eyes were pale, but they watched me like they knew more about me than I ever did. I was born. "The moment you froze," it said. "The moment you wished you could be someone else." I stumbled back, water soaking my shoes. "This isn't real," I whispered. It tilted its head exactly the way I do when I lie to myself, but it is. "You're standing in your own mind now, Ethan, and I've been here for years." Suddenly, the water turned to glass, and beneath the surface, I saw hundreds of faces, all of them mine. all of them screaming. Every time I had doubted myself, every time I forgot who I was, it had grown stronger. The mimic wasn't just copying me. It had nested itself inside me. I turned away from the lake only to find myself standing in my childhood bedroom. My bed, my posters, my old flashlight. The mimic stood in the corner, but now looked exactly like me. No glitches, no rot. Just, "Ethan, I've perfected you now," it said, stretching its arms. "I know every memory, every lie you told, every secret you buried." It sat on the bed like it owned the place. "You don't belong out there anymore." "I do." I shook my head. "You'll never be me." Then it smiled. A slow, smug grin. "That's what the last version of you said." The walls cracked. Voices poured and overwhelming all mine. All crying, all begging to wake up. But there was no waking up, only deeper descent. The room pulsed like a heartbeat. My childhood bedroom, but warped. The posters bled at the edges. The furniture twisted into shapes it should never be. Even the light from the old lamp flickered like it was breathing. The mimic stood and walked toward me. Same posture, same height. Same broken fingernail from yesterday. "You've always been scared of being nothing, haven't you?" it said softly. "Let me fix that." I backed into the wall, and it became a mirror. Not glass, but liquid reflection. Like mercury swirling. With memories, I saw myself, but not the me I remembered. Versions I'd forgotten. Me crying in a closet at age 6. Hiding from my parents screaming. Me at 17 staring at pills in my palm for longer than I ever admitted me last year. Standing at the edge of the bridge, alone. Shaking, the mimic pressed its hand to the mirror, and all those Ethans screamed silently. It turned to me and said, "You never wanted to be you. You were always waiting for something to take your place." I felt it then, a splitting behind my eyes. We're fraying. It wasn't just reading my thoughts anymore. It was rearranging them. Every memory I tried to hold on to slipped. Dates blurred. Faces shifted. Even my own name started to sound foreign. "Ethan," the mimic whispered again. With such tenderness it made my skin crawl. I screamed. Slammed my fist into the wall and the mirror shattered. Not with glass, but with sound. A scream exploded out. Louder than thunder, layered with every voice I'd ever had. And then, silence. I opened my eyes. Panting, the mimic was gone. So was the room. I stood in the middle of the forest again, but it wasn't night. It was morning. Birds chirped. Sunlight poured through the trees. And up ahead was a dirt road. My car, parked. I stumbled toward it like a dying man crawling toward water. No footsteps behind me, no. Whispers, no shadows. I was out. I made it. I was Ethan. I turned. A man stood by the car, wearing my jacket, holding my phone, smiling. He looked exactly like me. But only I had ever worn that jacket with the tear on the right side. His was torn on the left. He smiled like we were old friends. Or worse, like he remembered being me better than I did. "Hey," he said casually, tossing me the keys to my own car. "I was wondering when you'd catch up." His voice was my voice, but lighter, more relaxed, like someone who hadn't just clawed their way through hell. I caught the keys but didn't unlock the door. I stared at him. At the tear on his jacket, left side, I remembered mine tearing on the right, a barbed fence 3 days ago. I'd bled. I'd cursed. It wasn't a dream that happened. You made it out. I asked slowly. "Of course," he replied. Did you and me, we're free now?" But his smile, it's never dropped, not even a flicker. No tired eyes, no fear, just Alice calm. Too flawless. Something primal in me pulled back. A warning inside my bones. I asked, "What's the last thing? You remember?" He blinked. "The lake? Which memory?" He paused. Just half a second too long, and then said, "Dad's drowning." "You blamed yourself." Wrong answer. I hadn't told anyone I blamed myself. Not even a therapist. not even out loud. But the mimic knew. He smiled wider. "You're still inside, Ethan. You never left." The forest flickered for a single moment. Just a flash. The trees bent sideways. The road melted into black soil. The car pulsed like it had veins. I stepped back. Heart pounding. The copy's eyes shifted. "No pupils, just black holes," he whispered. "The only way out is to let me become you." I ran this time. The road didn't stretch. Forest didn't loop. But as I ran, I heard my own voice behind me, laughing. "Run, run, run. You're good at that, Ethan." I didn't stop running until the world stopped shifting, and then I realized it was back at the trailhead. Same crooked wooden sign, same worn-out bench, same trees, and up ahead other hikers. People, I could hear their voices, faint and distant. Laughter, talking, normal, real. But after everything I'd seen, real didn't feel safe anymore. I walked forward, cautious. My legs ached. My lungs burned. Every step I took, I expected the ground to give way, the trees to open and whisper. But nothing happened until a little girl passed me. She was holding her mother's hand. She smiled and waved. And in my voice, she said, "See you again soon, Ethan." The blood froze. I spun around. She was just a normal kid again, quiet, innocent, but her eyes had no light in them. I walked faster, out of the trees, onto the gravel parking lot, into my car, the real one. My tear on the right sleeve, my backpack, my water bottle, my cracked phone. Everything felt correct, but still, I hesitated. What if that's what it wanted me to believe? What if this was the final trap? I drove anyway, mile after mile, trees thinning into roads, into signs, into towns. The real world welcomed me back. Or did it? Every time I passed a face on the street, I wondered, do they know me? Or do they remember me? Were these people real? Or just more reflections? At a gas station, I looked into the restroom mirror, and my own reflection didn't blink when I did, just smiled, slow, familiar, then mouthed, "I'm still in here." Days passed, or at least I think they did. I returned home, my apartment, my bed, my shower, in my life. Everything was exactly where I left it, but nothing felt like it belonged to me anymore. I'd sit in silence. I didn't remember thinking. I'd close my eyes to sleep and dream of me watching me from the corner of the room. My reflections started blinking off rhythm. Not always. Just sometimes, and only when I was tired. But the worst part? I caught myself saying things I'd never say, little things. First, it was subtle. A word I never used. A joke I wouldn't make. A memory I don't remember living. It was learning how to speak through me. One night, I called an old friend. He picked up, laughed, and said, "Dude, you already called me this morning?" I hadn't, he insisted. He even told me what I'd said, but I never said it. At least I don't remember saying it. Then the dream started bleeding into the day. I'd walk past a mirror and see another me just standing still. It's watching. Every time I blinked, he'd move closer. Like a stutter in my vision. And the journal I brought back from the forest, it had new pages written in my handwriting. One of them said, "Soon you won't know the difference between me and you." Another, "I've already made a few phone calls. People believe I'm you now." And then one final message, scribbled in frantic strokes. "If you're reading this, Ethan, you're already the copy." I stopped trusting my voice. Sometimes I'd say things and forget why, or worse, how I said them. A word would come out with the wrong emotion. Too calm when I should be afraid. Too curious when I should be grieving. People noticed. My coworker said, "You've changed." My neighbor said, "You don't blink enough." A stranger on the subway whispered, "You're wearing someone else's skin." And then she smiled. With my smile that night, I destroyed every mirror in my apartment. But it didn't matter, because I started seeing myself in other places. Store windows, phone screens, dark puddles on the sidewalk, always staring, always smiling, never blinking. The mimic had followed me back. Or maybe I followed it. I tried. Therapy. But the therapist looked at me strange the second I walked in. "You again?" she said. "We already had your intake session." No, we hadn't. But she pulled out the file, my name, my face, my signature. Except I'd never been there. Leaned in, whispered, like she was afraid someone might hear, "Which one are you?" I didn't have an answer, because at night, when I talked to myself in the dark, something talked back. Same voice, same thoughts. But it answered before I could finish my sentences, like it already knew what I would say. And then it said, "It's easier if you just give me the rest." That's when I realized the mimic wasn't hiding in my reflection anymore. It was hiding in the gaps between my thoughts. I drove 5 hours to the edge of the state, through fog and trees that all looked the same again. I wasn't sure why, but something inside me whispered, "Go back. Go where it started." So I did. The trailhead was still there. Same rotten sign. Same silence. But this time, I wasn't scared. I was done being scared. I walked in without water, without food, without a phone. I brought only one thing, a lighter, deeper and deeper. I walked till the trees stopped whispering. They started listening. The forest knew I was back. Every shadow swayed slightly. Not with wind, but with breath. Every branch bent toward me, curious, expectant. And then I heard him, "Me, you're finally ready." He stepped out from behind a tree, barefoot, grinning, wearing my face like a mask that fit perfectly now. But this time, there was no tension in him, no threat. He was confident, because he thought he'd already won. "I don't need to take anything else," he said. "You've given most of it up already." He walked in circles around me, your memories, your voice, your reflection. "People already believe I'm you." I didn't speak, didn't react. I let him circle, like a wolf waiting for its prey to slip. And then he said the one thing that made my skin go cold. "Even your mother believes me now." My fists clenched. I pulled out the journal, the same one that followed me everywhere, and opened it to a blank page. Then I struck the lighter and dropped the flame onto the paper. The mimic hissed, recoiled. "What are you doing?" But I didn't stop. Fed the fire everything. Photos, notes, the sleeve from the old jacket. A torn-out page of my childhood diary I'd found in a drawer, one I never wrote. I whispered, "If I can't remember what's real, you don't get to either." The flames caught fast, a natural orange, then blue, then pitch black. The forest screamed. Branches shook. The ground cracked. Faces formed in the smoke hall in my hand, then melted. The mimic lunged, but I was already in flames too. I let it take my memories, my voice, my face, but I kept my fire. I don't remember blacking out. When I woke, the fire was gone. The forest was ash, the sky above pitch black with no stars. The trees burnt to bone. Even sound felt like it had been burned out of the air. I stood up slowly. Me ached, like I'd been rebuilt from smoke, and then I heard breathing, not around me. Inside me, I turned toward what was once the heart of the forest, and there he was, the mimic. What was left of it? Its face was cracked. Its mouth twitched without words. It looked like me, but empty now, like a puppet whose strings had finally snapped. "You," it rasped. "You don't know who you are anymore." I walked toward it. Calm now. "Clear, you're right," I said, "but neither do you." It fell to its knees. "You gave me nothing to wear. No lies, no mirrors, no stories." I nodded, and then I whispered the final truth. "You can't be me if I'm not anyone," it screamed. But it wasn't rage. It was starvation. It needed a self to feed on. And I had burned every part of it. Every fear, every echo, every guilt. It shattered like glass, each shard whispering one last line. "I almost was you." And then silence. Real silence. The kind that only comes when there's no voice left to lie to you. I walked out of the woods as the sun rose. Was I Ethan? Maybe was I whole? Ever again, but whatever came back, it wasn't the copy. A week later, I sat on the porch of a small motel on the edge of nowhere, drinking bitter coffee. staring at the trees in the distance. They didn't whisper anymore. No faces in the bark, no footsteps behind mine. No mimic voice crawling out of my spine. I should have felt peace. Because now that the mimic was gone, I was left with something worse: silence. Not around Min inside me. The journal was gone. The old jacket gone. All traces of the forest. Burned, scattered. Even my name didn't feel like mine anymore. Sometimes people ask, "You okay?" And I smile, the same way the mimic used to smile at me, because now I know how to wear it. I've learned the trick. You look people in the eye. You nod when they speak. You laugh when they expect it. You mimic them. That's what we all do, isn't it? I left something in that forest. Or maybe I brought something out. A shape, a hunger, not the kind that eats flesh, the kind that eats identity. Now when I pass by windows, my reflection blinks at the wrong time. Just once in a while. Not enough to scare me. Just enough to remind me it's never really gone. But because deep down, I still wonder. If the real Ethan died in those woods, and I, whatever I am now, am just the best imitation yet. The end.